Welcome back to Go Healthy for Good. We're talking about Alzheimer's disease today, and I have Sue Paul, an occupational therapist, with me. Sue, you've got a number of devices out here that look very familiar. Tell us, we were just creating a scene of a potential patient called Betty. Tell me, what might these things do for Betty over here?
Well, Betty's going to have trouble organizing her life, and she's going to have issues with her memory. Her whole organization of her schedule and her routine will be disrupted by this disease. So Betty will mess up her appointments. She will be sure it's Wednesday when it was really Thursday, and she'll get angry at other people for getting it wrong. So a lot of times I'll suggest a calendar, a simple calendar, some kind of schedule to keep. And rather than having the son or daughter write the appointment in, I want Betty to write it in.
Okay.
I want Betty to actually put the pen to paper and be responsible for her own thing. So not only saying it's on the calendar, saying remember you wrote it on the calendar, because the motor learning is a piece of that as well.
Okay.
Okay?
Great.
Betty's, chances are, the medications are a scary thing because you can't mess up your medications.
No.
That could be a fatal error or a very dangerous one. So the medications is something we have to get down. There's all different sorts of medication dispensers like this, pill boxes. It requires somebody else to fill them and make sure that the right dosage is in at the right day.
Sure.
There's ones that have morning, noon, evening, afternoon doses. You can break it down to, and then you need some system. So if on Friday she took her pills, she needs to leave the Friday cap up, or some strategy that she realizes that she took those already.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Sticky notes. We love sticky notes because these are great tools for reminding us of things we have to do. The problem is they do blend into the wallpaper eventually if they're left too long. They become meaningless. So just writing down reminders frequently is a good thing.
Excellent. That's
something
really practical.
But Betty is going to be losing some language skills along the way too.
True.
Her verbalizations she'll start messing up some words. Like my mother's coming over when she means her daughter, or she'll say she can't find the right word for ice cream, so she'll say, "Get me that bowl of cold stuff out of the freezer."
Right.
So when you realize that she's not using the right words, chances are she's not understanding them 100% either. So written word is language, and so that's why you really shouldn't rely on written reminders. But if they're working, then I would continue to do that.
Sounds great.
Okay.
Now we come to some very common objects that we find around the house.
Well,
how do you use these when you're assessing people?
Well, this is for Betty or for anybody who, like I said, they're not finding the right word, and a lot of times they need to hold this item and they'll say, "Oh, I know what this is. I hang my clothes with it. I have a bunch of them out in the laundry room, and it's called a," and she can't get the word, but she knows how it's used and how to hold it in her hand.
And
so I know
where
that
it's
she
kept.
recognizes it. Whereas if she picked this up and said and was going to brush her teeth with it, I realize that there's a problem, that she really doesn't understand what this object
Right.
is.
So if she were to pick, say, the hairbrush up this way and just start doing this, you might be concerned then that she's actually
further along than she realizes even, so.
So, but if she picks it up like that, it's a problem more about remembering the word, but she knows the function because it's held in the right way, and she might even do the right action with it.
Correct, yes. So that gives us a lot of information. Okay.
Okay. Now, what's the black?
Well, Betty, let's say Betty progresses a little bit in her disease and she becomes a risk for elopement or wandering out at night, or or even if Betty has now moved into a facility somewhere where she's, again, trying to leave and trying to go somewhere. Sometimes this is a great deterrent for somebody who keeps trying to get out the door, because we put a black hole in front of the door. And perceptually, there's some visual things going on where they might not be sure. They realize it can't be a hole. It's in the middle of the living room. But
so you're putting this on the floor, right?
It is. We put it right in front of the doorway. And it stops them a little bit to consider, what is that? Maybe I shouldn't step on that because it might be a hole.
Right. So perception is somewhat altered.
Correct, yes.
And then moving down to this end, what's going on here?
Well, let's say that Betty has progressed even further, and she does require institutionalized care because she's just too much to deal with at home. And Betty gets anxious, and she paces a lot, and she repeats herself a lot, and she's looking for her parents a lot, and she comes up to you and she can't find her words and she doesn't have good language skills, but you can tell that she's anxious and the poor thing can't express herself. So there's different things you can do to try to alleviate some of her anxiety. a great thing is just letting her walk. You know,
Okay.
old school, we used to sit these people down and tie them down and do not let them walk because they're walking too much. And finally, somebody had the sense to say, well, let them walk. That's what they want to do. So just gross motor things is very soothing to somebody who's anxious. Excuse me.
Right.
So there's walking and rocking and swinging and dancing. And all these gross motor things are very soothing to somebody who's anxious.
And they're repetitive
And they're
movements,
repetitive.
which bring comfort to a certain
Yes.
degree.
So if she's repeating herself a lot and she's good at repetition, then let's let her repeat herself and let's
Right.
let her dust the kitchen table and, you know, dust the furniture and sweep.
Excellent.
You
And what about the photo?
Well, again, if somebody's anxious and you want to comfort them and you know, well, look, here's a picture of your children. You remember you have children and aren't they beautiful? And you know, to be honest, she might not remember she has children, and that would be a very foreign concept to her. But what she does remember is that she has parents. So if you show them a picture of her parents, that can sometimes be more soothing than pictures of her children and her grandchildren.
Because it's further back
It's
in her
further
memory?
back, it's a long-term, hard-ingrained memory, and your parents are comforting for the most part. You know, you feel a little safer. So talking about parents sometimes versus the children and the grandchildren, where that can be kind of anxiety-producing because she doesn't really remember what you're saying,
Right.
that's a great...
A great tool. And now we have a doll.
Yes.
And what will a doll represent to someone who has Alzheimer's?
Well, we call this instinctual nurturing. It's in all of us. We're born with this this gene to take care of other people. Maternally, we take care of our babies, and that's just something we just instinctively do. So when somebody's anxious and walking, or if they're even angry and combative, if we put the baby in their arms, at least for a moment, they will hesitate and whoa, this is a baby, you know, and at least it'll stop them in their tracks. The best benefit
Works for men and women?
for men too, yes. Oh my gosh, they love their babies. So if you sit them in a rocking chair, which is that gross motor repetitive movement, and you give them a baby doll just to love on for a little bit, it's a very good way to get into that brain and provide them with some kind of sensory experience that's meaningful.
Great. Wow. I learned lots. Now, before I answer your questions, though, let's learn another ageless advantage.